The 6th of August 1945. The day is unlikely to be forgotten by the people of the land of the rising sun and the rest of the world. On this day in Japan, they honor the memory of the victims of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. 72 years have passed. Little Boy, that was the code name of the bomb that incinerated everything around in a split second. 3 days later, another atomic bomb was dropped, this time on Nagasaki. More than 450,000 people became victims of the two bombings. The cities resembled a cauldron with boiling tar where innocent people burned alive. Decades have passed, but history has captured the tragedy of the war. It's a reminder of a reckless game with an incredible force of nuclear weapons. The tragedy of other people thousands of miles away from Hiroshima and Nagasaki should be remembered too. A few years later, the Soviet Union made its own nuclear bomb, and the decision was made to test its power in the Kazakh steppe. At the junction of the East Kazakhstan, Pavlodar and Karaganda regions, one of the world's largest nuclear test sites, Semipalatinsk, was created. On August 29, 1949, the Soviets conducted their first nuclear weapons test here, and there were 456 more in the next 40 years. For the record, the total power of nuclear charges tested over these years was 2,500 times higher than the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Radioactive fallout spread over more than 300,000 square kilometers, inhabited by approximately 2 million people. As a result, the Semipalatinsk region became a zone of ecological disaster. Great damage was done to the health of the local population. Up to 1.5 million inhabitants of the region were exposed to radiation. Reservoirs and pastures were polluted. Cases of cancer and cardiovascular diseases became more frequent among the population living near the polygon. The death rate increased, more children with congenital defects were born. The tragedy reached a great scale and the public could not turn a blind eye to it. In 1989, the Nevada Semi-International Anti-Nuclear Movement was established. The organization's goal was to close the Semipalatinsk as well as other nuclear test sites around the world. Olja Suleimanov, a poet and a public figure, was the leader of the movement. Mass protests prevented 11 out of 18 explosions that were planned at the Semipalatinsk test site at the time. The movement received the support from Kazakhstan's leader, Nursultan Nazarbayev. As a result, on August 29, 1991, he issued a historic decree on closing the Semipalatinsk test site. The head of Kazakhstan, which was then part of the Soviet Union, made an unprecedented historic act by making a unilateral decision to close the polygon used by the military of the largest nuclear power in the world. Moreover, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the young sovereign Kazakhstan inherited the world's fourth largest nuclear arsenal. Once again, the president of the newly independent state made the only right decision, as the country voluntarily renounced its nuclear weapons. Thus, Kazakhstan set an example in nuclear safety and arms reduction for the whole world. This was despite the fact that the Kazakh president received many alternative proposals. For instance, in 1992, the former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi suggested that Nazarbayev should leave the nuclear arsenal in Kazakhstan so that, in his words, the Muslim world also owned a nuclear bomb. If Nazarbayev agreed, Gaddafi promised billions of dollars for the storage and maintenance of the arsenal. However, the Kazakh president, as a true statesman, was guided by strategic considerations and not the opportunism. Thus, the president of Kazakhstan resolutely adhered to the policy of non-proliferation. For instance, in 1992, the country began to implement the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program, also known as the Non-Lugar Program. It was a vivid example of the successful multilateral cooperation in the field of disarmament with the direct participation of the two nuclear superpowers, Russia and the United States, as well as three now non-nuclear states, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Belarus. The program resulted in projects implemented to destroy the infrastructure and facilities for the production and storage of nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. In 1993, the Kazakh Supreme Council ratified the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. The multilateral agreement obliges the participating countries to take practical measures to reduce the threat of weapons of mass destruction. In 2006, Kazakhstan, with the support of the neighboring Central Asian states, signed the Central Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone Treaty. According to its regulations, the parties undertake to prohibit production, purchase and distribution of nuclear weapons and their components or other nuclear explosive devices. The zone in Central Asia has a number of unique features. It is the first nuclear weapon-free zone located in its entirety in the Northern Hemisphere and bordering two nuclear powers, Russia and China. Also, it is the first nuclear-free zone in the region where nuclear weapons existed in the past. As a result of the agreements with the leading powers, Kazakhstan acquired security guarantees, strengthened its state sovereignty, and protected itself from external threats. On Kazakhstan's initiative, in December 2009, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution to establish the International Day Against Nuclear Tests on August the 29th, the date when the Semipalatinsk test site was closed. And in December 2015, the regular meeting of the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Nuclear-Free World that was initiated by President Nursultan Nazarbayev. The adoption of the resolution once again confirmed the independent foreign policy course of the President of Kazakhstan and its positive perception in the world. In 2012, at the plenary session of the conference From the Ban of Nuclear Tests to a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, President Nazarbayev announced the launch of the Atom Project. The acronym ATOM stands for Abolish Testing, Our Mission. Within the framework of the project, anyone who opposes nuclear weapons can sign an online petition calling on the governments of the world to permanently abandon nuclear testing and to bring about an early entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The goals of the Atom Project were clearly formulated by its honorable ambassador, Kazakh artist Karibek Kuyukov, who himself suffered the consequences of nuclear tests. The goals of the peaceful policy of Kazakhstan were summarized in the Manifesto of President Nursultan Nazarbayev, The World, the 21st Century, which was presented to the public during the Nuclear Security Summit in Washington in the spring of 2016. The document is a fundamentally new global anti-nuclear and anti-war platform for long-term action. Its basic provisions on the reality of achieving a new safe world for all can become the basis of a worldwide disarmament movement and an effective roadmap for all global states. The international community has responded to the initiatives of Kazakhstan. One of the most authoritative associations in this field is the Pugwash movement. The international non-governmental organization unites scientists, political and public figures for peace, disarmament, security, and scientific cooperation. The movement's founding document was the Manifesto of Russell Einstein, whereas the organization's name is connected to the venue of the first conference held in the Canadian village of Pugwash in 1957. The movement played an important role in the development and adoption of key multilateral agreements in the field of non-proliferation and elimination of the weapons of mass destruction. In 1995, the Pugwash movement was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its active role in seeking nuclear disarmament. According to the representatives of the movement, Kazakhstan was chosen as a suitable place for holding a Jubilee meeting of scientists in 2017, as the people of Kazakhstan suffered the consequences of nuclear tests, and today, under the leadership of President Nursultan Nazarbayev, the country is a recognized leader in matters of nuclear disarmament. Kazakhstan's next step in supporting non-proliferation of nuclear weapons is hosting the Low-Enriched Uranium Bank under the auspices of the International Atomic Energy Agency. A unique project is being implemented on the grounds of the Oba Metallurgical Plant in the city of Ust-Kamenogorsk. It will enable the conditions for solving problems related to the development of peaceful atom in countries that do not have a full cycle of uranium enrichment for use in the production of power at nuclear reactors. Speaking at the 70th session of the UN General Assembly in New York in September 2015, President Nursultan Nazarbayev proposed that creating a world without nuclear weapons should be the main goal of humanity in the 21st century. In his view, it is possible to achieve this goal not later than the United Nations Centennial in 2045. According to Nazarbayev, it is necessary to create nuclear-free zones in other regions of the world, particularly in the Middle East. The nuclear powers must provide guarantees of non-use of force to all countries that have renounced the possession of nuclear weapons. To this end, the president of Kazakhstan proposed the creation of a global anti-nuclear movement. At the same time, every person on the planet can and should contribute to the struggle to ban nuclear testing, and, in the not-too-distant future, the nuclear weapons themselves. Surely, this is a very noble goal, a goal that deserves everyone's support.